Hello and welcome to Personal Branding and LinkedIn Lunch Club. I'm super excited to be here. We've got an amazing guest with us today, Sophie Brown, Global Head of Channel and Women in Tech speaker. You may also recognise her from TV this year as well. So hi Sophie, how are you?
Hello, I'm really good, thanks, Caisha. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us. Really excited to talk to you, and I'm sure everyone listening will love to hear what you've got to say as well, because I know you've done so much with your career already and some really interesting things that we can hopefully give some tips and advice on. So thank you. So what I'd like to do, for those who don't know you, I'm sure lots of people will already know you, but just give a bit more insight into your, I suppose, career background, how you got started within tech and how you've got to where you are today, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll keep it as brief as possible, but I've worked in tech for the last sort of 8-9 years since I just turned 19, still a teenager, dropped out of university and got a job. I almost fell into technology, but once I was in it, it was something that I really adored, passionate about, and a really future-proof place to be. So I just thought I'd continue on this journey. And I'm currently the global head of channel at a large e-commerce business in Manchester. And my responsibility, it's essentially sort of key partnership management. It's onboarding, it's training. It's really diverse, to be honest, and I really enjoy it. So I've spent the last few years sort of carving out, I suppose, what my career will look like, and I'm in a good position with it now.
Oh, that's amazing. Like I said, you've been doing it since a teenager, but then worked in tech, but you've kind of worked your way up clearly and have done really well, which is amazing. So hopefully we can give some tips to those maybe are in tech or wanting to get into tech or even just like progress their career. The one thing I like to ask all my guests, because obviously what I do is personal branding, is in your opinion, why is building a personal brand important?
So, I mean, you've probably said this before or seen it a lot, but I genuinely think your network is your net worth. And it's about the people that speak about you behind your back as well, because you're not always going to be there in a group setting or at an event to, big yourself up. So if you've got a network behind you, whether you've built that through the connections you've made in person, through your jobs, or obviously LinkedIn as an incredible place to do that. And the younger that you can start that, the better. If you can build a network on LinkedIn, things like job opportunities. The last few jobs that I've got have been through LinkedIn. People have reached out to me. I've been headhunted, which is incredible. So there's so many opportunities that come from expanding your network, your personal brand, putting content out there, like I like to do, tips on sales and things like that, that sum me up as a person, but kind of I like to put out there. And it generates more kind of interest in what I'm doing and allows me to, help other people in the process.
It's so true. And I love how you said your network is your net worth. And I think more people need to, I suppose, realise that actually you have got the power and control over your career, over your business and whatever you do, because it's your choice how you want to be perceived, but equally your choice to show up online and build your personal brand, because it will differentiate you from all your other competitors or peers. Like you said, you're being headhunted now a couple of times, which is so cool because if you are visible, if people do know about you and you've optimized your profiles and that type of thing, you'll be way ahead of other people who are just submitting CVs but not doing any extra work to build their personal brand. So I suppose you kind of touched on that a little bit, but how would you say building a personal brand can help someone get more opportunities? How will it work in their favor to get more opportunities?
I think that if you just start putting things out there, no matter what it is, like I've really only recently started sharing more on my LinkedIn, like with the videos that I've done around sales tips and things. And it's more just about, it generates a lot of interest. People are genuinely wanting to engage with this information. They find it useful. Also, a lot of people want to add their own advice in. I kind of opened it up, like, does anyone else have any tips? And loads of people would comment. And it allows you to have a space where not only are you putting your own kind of skills out there, but you're allowing other people to comment on that and add their own thoughts as well. So yeah,
I love that. And it makes you not just one dimensional, it makes you actually human, doesn't it? And people, we're all humans, so people resonate with other humans regardless what your position is, whether you're, global head of, whether you're a CEO, a founder, whatever you are, we're all human and that's how we all connect with other people. So by showing up as you're going to quickly perform connection as opposed to someone that doesn't show up at all. So no, and your videos that you've been posting are really cool and they're really helpful as well. So check them out if you haven't already. So I know you're quite passionate about this with building careers from a kind of an earlier stage, because I don't think enough is done to educate younger people as to actually how they can build careers, you know, maybe as a woman or even in tech, but just building careers and the options that are there, but equally how to get ahead, how to position yourself. What advice do you have for someone who is just starting their career? Like, what can they do? Because I think a lot of people are a little bit lost at the moment with what they should do to get started in their career.
Yeah, I think the important thing is just understanding and saying that if you don't know what you're doing at that age, you're part of the bigger, wider opinion. It's not like you should know what you want to do. I had no idea, and I feel like that's okay, and that's absolutely fine. And that's something in itself, you know, it's about getting a foot in the door somewhere that you are, you know, that there's opportunities within a business. If you can get in somewhere where they have, you know, progression plans, or if you are a graduate, maybe like an accelerator scheme, perhaps you want to do an apprenticeship. A lot of these things as well are accessible, not having those levels of education. So I mentioned I dropped out of uni. I didn't have a degree, but I still pursued my career. And I genuinely believe it, you know, your attitude is your greatest asset. That's something that I like to tell young people, because a lot of the things that I've got to do is because I've gone in there and I've said, I will give it 100%, and I will turn up every day, and I will be a person that, you know, basically gives everything. And I have always tried to do that. And I think that you do tend to get opportunities your way if you show that, you know, you're willing. And it's about having a bit of a competitive edge. And if we bring sort of a sales role into it, I mean, my first sales role, I think I literally went in there and I was like, I will be the best. I'll, you know, beat the men on the sales team. And I was just really passionate about it. And I think they, you know, they saw that in me and they took a chance on me. And you don't have to be the most intelligent person in the room. And especially as a young person, it's such a competitive market. But if you can bring something as an edge, as a reason for them to take you on board and kind of, you know, put their faith in you, then you can do that, whether it's through building a LinkedIn that looks incredible, or you know, putting your own content out there, or even just learning yourself, anything, watching YouTube videos, you know, doing online courses, free ones, whatever it is.
It's so true, and that's such good advice. Like, you can literally do anything you want. And I know we've spoken like offline about this, that you dropped out of uni, so did I. And everyone learns in different ways. Like for me at uni, I was just not learning. It was just not for me. Whereas I'm more of a bit like you, like hands-on learning, and will do what it takes, like work as hard as I need to. And if that sounds like you as well, that's cool. But if you enjoy uni, we're not saying you need to drop out, but you know, just whatever works best for you. But it's just about showing that you have got a great attitude, you are passionate. And like Sophie said, which I think I love, it's like self-learn. YouTube, there's so much out there, LinkedIn training, there's so much free stuff you can learn. You can learn to do anything online now. So self-learn, create a LinkedIn profile, and you're already going to be ahead of people that haven't done that, because you're going to show that you're assertive, show that you can actually do things for yourself. And like we said just not long ago, is your network is your net worth. So start actually building your network on LinkedIn, which again, anyone can do. And I know, like you've said like previously, it doesn't matter what stage you're at, just be honest with people, but show up as you, and people will connect with you for wherever you're at in life.
Yeah.
So I think that's really huge like tip. So you'd advise kind of get a LinkedIn profile, maybe if you haven't already, even if they are a student, and just maybe put that on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I did, I remember when I was in my first job and I was really yearning to like move up, progress, I wanted to get promoted and move into the account manager role. I actually requested the sales calls from the senior account managers, and I used to listen to them. There were voice recordings, so I used to record them, and I'd listen to them on my commute 2.5 hours from Manchester to Cheltenham. So even in my own time, I used to listen to those calls, and I genuinely used to take them on board, and I used to learn a lot. So if there's anything like that you can do, or, you know, engaging with those senior people in the business, they would love to help you. Honestly, you know, everybody loves to help each other out. And yeah, whether it be in LinkedIn, find someone that does a similar role, maybe get advice from them. But there's so many things that you can do to kind of help yourself and improve your knowledge on different subjects.
That's so true. And like you said, you know, ask for help, you know, ask for the recordings, or ask someone who's in a position that you want to be in. You know, I really love what you're doing. Would you mind just, you know, giving me half an hour of your time to learn from you? And most people, I know everyone's busy, but most people, if you reach out and ask, they'll try and help you if you're at the start of your career and you just want some help, because we're all human and we all want to help each other. So that's really great tips. So do whatever you can to self-learn, like kind of show your attitude, but equally start to reach out to people, because, you know, if you don't ask, you won't get. So start to ask, and you will get yeses. And just be confident in what, there will be opportunities out there, because there definitely will be, and just start to be proactive with doing what it takes to get them. And clearly you've been proactive, which has got you to where you are today. So on that, what I want to speak about is negotiating, because a lot of people that I speak to, they maybe just have, they've got a good career, but maybe they're not at the salary that they want, or they just maybe feel like they're coasting, or they feel like it's too awkward to ask for a higher salary or to go for roles at a higher salary, because I think things like imposter syndrome creep in, like, no, I can't ask for that salary. But then what happens is other people start to kind of get higher salaries, and they're still on a lower salary. So have you got any advice for someone to negotiate their worth, and negotiate to get a higher salary, or even when they're going for a new role, to go for those higher salaries and be confident in doing so?
Yeah, I think it's so important. And I think sometimes people almost forget how important it is. And once you get that job offer, it's such an exciting moment. And sometimes you're almost like, right, yeah, it's a yes, I'm taking it. Whereas I think sometimes a good thing to do is, like, let's say you're working in that job for a couple of years and you're not going to get a pay rise. Could even be 3 years, especially with the economic market. Who knows when anyone's getting a pay rise? You've got to think, what do I want to do, even lifestyle wise, in the next 3 years? Some people might want to start a family. Some people might want to go on a specific holiday, or even just living a lifestyle where they want to be able to achieve that. So going out a few nights a week. Sometimes it's better to actually make that salary fit around what your lifestyle looks like than just looking at it as a number, because it might be the salary that you end up having for the next few years. And you want to be able to future-proof yourself and kind of live the life that you want to and that you deserve to. So I think another tip would always be, it's your only opportunity really is to get a pay rise at that stage. And as long as you're not pushing the boat too much, which by asking for an increase, you're showing initiative. It's never been greeted for me personally with negativity. And I will say I come from more of a commercially minded attitude. So obviously it is sales roles and it is more competitive. So a lot of the time it's well kind of appreciated. But as an example, I speak with the women in tech in our own business, and one of the young women there, she got a new job, and she came to me and she said, I really want to negotiate this, but I don't know how. And I also don't want to mess up the offer. I don't want them to say, oh, well, actually, we don't want you anymore. And we sat down, we had a call about it, and we constructed an email that was basically saying, look, it's more responsibilities, it's X, like using things that are genuinely kind of worth more money and worth more salary, but in a very constructive way. And it wasn't pushy. It was just saying, I cannot wait to work for this company, and I really appreciate the opportunity. But for this to work for me, I want it to work for everyone. And she messaged me, and yeah, she got a pay rise, and she was so happy. And it didn't ruin her chances, which it wouldn't. But I get that it's nerve-wracking, and it can be difficult, and it's a level of confidence, and you just got to do it. It's your one time. You just got to do it, and it will work out.
100%. So, and I think some people can feel a bit like cheeky asking for it, or like, how do I deserve this? But I love what you did with the young woman, where you were like, this is what actually you're going to be doing. So say, yes, I'm happy to do that, and I can do X, Y, Z, but this is the salary that I want for it. And it's okay to ask for that. And it's the same when it comes to business. Even me, for example, charging certain fees at first, I was a bit like, this is a bit awkward, like discussing this kind of, money. But actually, if you are good at what you do, whether that's in a career or business, it's okay to charge, a certain amount, or say a certain salary. And if it's not quite right for them, the worst they can say is, we can't quite hit that, but actually we could get this, which is better than what you're on, or that what you're thinking. And if they really can't do it, and they say, maybe not right now, but in the future, there's nothing bad that's going to come out of negotiating, is that if they really like you.
Exactly that. A lot of the time it's not going to be a straight up no, but even if it is we can't, it's not something we can do right now. The other tip I would say is, if that's the case, or if you don't feel confident enough to do it in that first instance, get a salary review booked in after 6 months. Get that already solidified so that you know that that's coming, because you can enter a role and then just be completely lost as to when your next review is. So at least you've got that booked in. But yeah, I mean, obviously don't go all guns blazing, but if you're constructive and you're, you're respectful about it, then and obviously as women as well, we've got things like gender pay gap to contend with as well. So it's your life at the end of the day, and your salary is more than just a number and more than just money. It's what it's what builds your lifestyle. So better go for it. I always think, why not?
So true. What's the worst that can happen? Nothing. So go for it. And more often than not, they're probably like, yeah, that's totally cool. And you're like, what? So yeah, go for it. If you don't ask, you don't get. And yeah, what's the worst that can happen? But I definitely recommend what Sophie said. Go for it. And also there are like things online where you can find salary benchmarking. So you can use that to kind of help understand, actually, am I at the right salary? Could I ask for a bit more? It's always good to know what other people are at your kind of role, and you can even search for similar roles to you, see what kind of mark that they're at, because you could be way underpaid and not know about it. So do always check what's going on and just make sure that you are at the right salary.
Yeah.
So you mentioned being a woman in tech, which you obviously are, and you've done really well with it, navigating your career. Have you ever had any challenges being a woman in tech, working in tech as a female? Have you ever had any challenges that you've come across? If so, what have they been?
Yeah, I think working in tech as a female has been hugely positive, and it's a great place to be. I think the only kind of problematic part has been the industry itself being heavily male dominated. So I think for me, especially when I started out, I just turned 19. I was so young. I was the only woman on the sales team. I was surrounded by males. And it can be difficult at times because they're not used to being around, females, and especially in a sales environment. I mean, it was very intense. And I feel like throughout my career, it's definitely got better. I think that there's, amazing places like, a lot of companies like my own have a women in tech sort of division, and we get to sit down and speak about things. But I think there's still a lot of room for growth there. And I think that there's still hesitation when women are entering an industry that's heavily male dominated. I think for me, I just have always genuinely been very sort of passionate about anything I'm doing, and with a view that I will be successful and I will make it work. So I have kind of pushed through those boundaries. But I mean, I'm sure, you've had similar things where, like, especially early on in my career, I'd ring someone up and it'd be a guy on the end of the phone talking about their infrastructure, and they'd be like, well, can I speak to the specialist? Or, you're obviously not the right person, or you're the receptionist. Well, I am the specialist, but thank you very much. I had that quite a few times where, they kind of were looking past me to speak to someone else. But all you can do really is be as resilient as possible and have faith in your own ability. And I feel like I did try and do that, and that's allowed me to kind of keep pushing. But I won't say that everything's perfect and everything's, because it's not. There's a lot of growth to do, but I think it's a very wonderful space to be in for women. Like, the tech space is growing rapidly, and you've got so many women that are undertaking, engineering roles, coding roles, and you've got like coding for women at a young age. So there's all these things that kind of helping us improve that.
That's really cool. And like you said, like starting your career at 19 in tech is a huge thing. I was literally 19 as well, just turned 19, and it's like, whoa. It's definitely male dominated still, but I think more is being done around it and more women in tech initiatives, which is great. But yeah, I've definitely experienced similar to you, where they don't quite see you as that kind of expert, or at least they didn't before when you were when you were starting out. And it's like, yeah, they obviously want to speak to a male, but I think it definitely is improving. And like you said, if you've got the right attitude, you're resilient, you can do anything anyway, regardless what it is, whether you're female in tech or in another industry, you can do it regardless. Perfect. So when it comes to, I know you've posted a really good video recently, which has gone down really well, and a lot of people have engaged with it and found it really useful, about sales tips and tips for people that work in sales. Have you got any advice for those who are working sales at the moment? Because what I'm seeing is quite a divide, where you've got your top sellers where people are doing really, really well. They're maybe using the likes of like LinkedIn or social media to find clients, or they're just really good at like calling and creating that relationship building piece. Then others who are just really struggling with it when it comes to sales. They're maybe not performing as well, or they're just not having as much success with sales. From you, with your personal experience, what does it take now, and what advice have you got for people to become better at selling and to kind of build relationships to get more clients?
Yeah, it's a very competitive space, and it's a very difficult space when you're not doing well. I mean, I've had it where I've had months where I'm not doing as well as I should be, and it's really difficult. And I mean, they always say you're only as good as your last month. So, even if you have an absolute belter, you're still, you're still under pressure to do well. But I would say, obviously, you mentioned there about the whole kind of LinkedIn piece and things like that, but it will genuinely help put you ahead if you are able to build that personal brand online and put content out that people are genuinely interested in. The leads will start to come to you because they'll want to chat to you about the solution that you're providing. I'm a very consultative seller, and I very much, the whole match and mirror, I think that's hugely important. I sell to people how I would want to be sold to, which is not really brash, which is not really kind of forward and pressuring them to make a decision. It's kind of being like, look, these are your options. If you want them to, not take it or leave it, but it's almost like, here's the solution to your problem. I can make things better for you by doing X. Let's talk about it, or let's open up that conversation. But it is a difficult space. And I think things like I mentioned earlier about kind of listening to sales calls and things, I think things like that, no matter where you are in your sales career, you're still learning. I always think, especially with sales, you're still learning all the time. It's constant. So if you can listen, especially if you are kind of finding yourself in that bottom division rather than the top, and there's kind of that big gap, what are the people in the top doing? What are what are they doing in their day? Like, are they organizing their day or structuring it differently? Like, are they using other resources to learn? Are they working with each other more? It's about finding that out. So I think looking around at your peers, the ones that are successful. I always did that. I always pit myself against the best person in the team. If you pick yourself anywhere below that, you're never going to be at the top. So I'd say that. And if you can get a mentor as well, whether that's internally in your business or externally, I think that's really helpful as well, because they can ultimately help you.
That's really good advice. So always be learning, get a mentor, because I think always learn from someone who's doing it really well. Like Sophie said, don't just go for the mediocre person and aspire to be that. Go for the top biller, top performer. But like how you were saying, consultative definitely is what works. People don't really like to be sold to or like to feel like they're being sold to. People are very smart with their buying decisions because they can see so much online now. So get your LinkedIn profile, post, because again, people buy from people, and you'll stand out from competitors who haven't posted. And even if you are a bit embarrassed to post at first on LinkedIn, which I think a lot of people still are a little bit like, oh, this is a bit awkward, especially within sales teams, like, oh, people are going to feel like, what are you doing posting videos? But they'll soon be asking you how you do when you're getting all these clients in. And always look for ways to be different, but learn, like you were saying, because there's always something to learn in sales. And equally, even things like objection handling. If you get objections, it's normal. Don't just say, okay, that's it then. And, there's so much you can do to be a better seller, whether you're in business, whether if you got your own business, or whether you're working for someone else, you can always be better at sales and always be learning. Because even with what I do, having my own business, I'm always learning, because you're never the finished article. You can always do more. So that approach really does help. So it's really great tips. I want to speak about something personal, which is something you've spoken about and being quite brave to speak about on your social media. I know, like, definitely Instagram. I don't know if you've done it quite yet on LinkedIn, but what I really resonated with you over, and I felt like you're definitely my type of person, is because you shared more about well, firstly, I like that you worked in tech and like how you worked your way up, because again, that resonates with what I've done. But I really resonated with stuff that you were talking about with ADHD and just feeling a little bit different and struggling with kind of the whole work, because I've had similar feelings. I haven't got diagnosed how kind of you've gone down your route, but I would love to, if you wouldn't mind, just sharing. I know it's a bit of a personal thing to talk about, but your experience realizing maybe that you might have ADHD and kind of going through, but how you've managed to navigate it, or are navigating it still.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm happy to speak to this subject. And when, like yourself, in saying that I'm brave to talk about it, in my head, it's just very normal for me to do that. Like, I don't feel brave. I mean, it was a big step putting it out there, but once it was out there, I was kind of like, well, I was speaking with friends and peers, and a lot of people that I know, suffer with ADHD or other neurodivergent kind of symptoms and things like that, because especially working technology, there's a lot of neurodivergent people. So but I think I was diagnosed through the NHS. I waited 2 years to get my diagnosis, and I think by that point I just was pleased to kind of know that I had it. And for me, that was kind of the catalyst of just knowing that I had it. And then I suppose just educating myself from there. But one of my best friends, she takes medication for ADHD. She takes it daily and it's changed her life. And I thought, this is going to be amazing. It's going to change my life. My focus is going to be incredible. And it didn't. I don't get on with it at all. And it was slightly disheartening because I thought this was going to be this life-changing thing. And it isn't. So for me, it's just about, I've lived 26 years not knowing I had it and kind of living my life and being a high-functioning ADHDer. It was kind of like, well, I'm just going to carry on the way that I am, but I'm going to have to put things in place that help me, because I know when I'm struggling, and it is things like focus and, my concentration and memory and just brain fog. And, even you asking the questions, sometimes I'm like, wait, what was the question again while I'm speaking? And it's really random the way it can kind of show itself. But I'm on that journey. I'm still very much navigating, but having put it out there on, my social media and things like that, and having a platform, I think I've realized how important it is to talk about these things, because just because I'm okay with it doesn't mean that anyone else is. And there might be another person sat there feeling really awful about it. And I like to share that I'm like, so what, I have ADHD, it is what it is. There are some things that are amazing about it and I feel really positively. So I like to put that out there and that energy, so that then if anyone is struggling, they're like, oh, okay, well, she's still doing her job and she's still doing this. And
it's really great advice, and really great that you've spoken so openly about it. And shame that this stuff isn't working for you, like the medicine, but like you said, you're kind of getting by and you're learning how to work with it. Like you said, you've dealt with it for 26 years, so and clearly doing well. But what, like, if you don't mind speaking about it, what were some of like the symptoms that made you realize that you might have it? Because I suppose that might help other people who maybe do have it already and might not know they have it, to make them feel a bit more like normal, that actually this is, maybe that is what I've got and it is okay to feel like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, the biggest there were two things actually. So previous to working from home, like obviously COVID and lockdown and working from home and working remotely, I'd always worked in an office, and there were multiple people that had said to me, from seeing the way that I work quite frantically and the way that I sort of like go from task to task to task, and I've got high energy and things like that. I think I had a few people say that they think that I might have ADHD, and I didn't take any offense to that. It was more like, okay, interesting. And I kind of didn't really think anything of it. And then once lockdown hit and my work turned to remote, I sat literally at this desk and I was like, how do people sit here for 8-9 hours a day? I was like, any distraction possible. I was like, right, it was just ridiculous. And I find it really hard to concentrate, like watching certain things. Like I have to be so engrossed, otherwise I find it really difficult and I will lose interest so quickly. My memory is really bad, which is really frustrating. Completing tasks, like from a work kind of standpoint, I get everything done. This is the thing, I'm high functioning, but to get it done is blooming hard. So it's like jumping from task to task, things like that for me. I think a lot of mine is like my I'm a mix between combined between hyperactive and inattentive. So I've got both, but I think I'm more inattentive. So kind of those, I think that's why I hide it quite well, because a lot of it goes on here and it's like I don't kind of actively show it. But yeah.
That's really cool and really helpful that you've shared that. So, and I suppose because you were getting distracted working from home, was everything taking you just way longer to do? So it wasn't like you could just get it done in the normal hours, where you then because you're getting distracted, you're having to work longer to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, I think it's the same for a lot of people with ADHD, and even you and I have spoken about this. It's almost like we'll do the bits of work and then need to do something else, we'll get distracted, but then we'll be there like in the evening or whatever, finishing something off at a different time, because that just works better for us. And like, so I feel like a lot of other people resonate with that, because I feel like it's almost like once you finished work, that's the best time to do work. I think it completely depends. It's the weirdest thing. I think it completely depends. I mean, my job generally I have to do within the hours, just because I'm speaking to people and clients.
You can't call them at midnight. Like, hi, I'm ready to work now. Like, I'm asleep.
Yeah, no, exactly. But some of it kind of is that flexibility. And I think that there's some sort of businesses and things that can do it really well, where they have things in place for that. But I think for me, I just had to sort of manage it myself. And if I was getting distracted, it was like write a list and then start ticking it off, because I needed to get it done.
Yeah. that's always a good tip as well. Write a list. And what I've spoken to someone recently is that he was a sales coach, and I think the book's called Eat That Frog. I think that's what it's called, where you do the task that you'll procrastinate on the most, do that first, or do the task that you least want to do first. And I've started to try and do that, and actually that does help quite a bit, because things that you just really don't like doing out of your day, like all the things that you just procrastinate on, I'll do that first, and then actually I can get around to, once that's done, it's like a relief. Then the other things I can just get on with and just tick them, and I feel like I've accomplished something each tick. So that's really useful. So I've just got a couple more questions based on that. So with ADHD and how you've experienced, you can get distracted and things can feel quite a lot. And you post a lot of, really cool content, and you're always active on social media. Have you found that to be overwhelming at all? Or how do you manage content and creating it like daily, or how do you cope with that whilst working full time, whilst having a social life and family? Like, how do you cope with that?
Very good question. It's really hard, and I have never been this busy ever in my life. So I am really navigating that, and especially having ADHD, it is very difficult to kind of get everything done. So I think with the content, it's interesting, because part of my life now I'm sort of building a brand on Instagram, and I get the opportunity to create content, and it's monetized, which is incredible. So I'm enjoying that part of it, but I am no professional at that, and I haven't done that before. So it is very difficult. It takes me a very long time to kind of film these pieces that I need to do. I think it's funny, because like one of my favorite things, or one of the easiest things that I did, was actually sort of the sales video, because it was just in my brain, ready to go, and I just did it. And that was for LinkedIn. But I definitely want to create more career kind of centric content. But I also really enjoy the creative side that I get to do. But yeah, I mean, just managing my time, I don't know, it's hard.
Just get on with it.
Yeah.
Do you like so just another question on content, because some people do it that I speak to, some people don't. Do you like batch content out in advance, or are you posting or like filming every day?
At the moment, I'm doing it as it comes rather than pre-planning it. I would like to get to a place where
organization.
Yeah, where I pre-do it, and then obviously, okay, it's scheduled in. I'm not there yet. As I said, I'm very much navigating this, and it's about doing it around my schedule. But I think, honestly, for me, I think this year has been very hectic, and I've learned a lot. And I think moving into next year, there's a lot of things and a lot more organization that I'm going to put into place for my own life, so that I can be a bit less stressed and just be a bit more on top of things.
Well, you've achieved so much already. Like this year's been huge for you, obviously managing both your career and then the TV stuff and Instagram and LinkedIn. So I can imagine you've got so much going on. With LinkedIn, for those who are watching and tuning in, they are in the process of rolling out to schedule posts on the platform now. So you don't have to get another app or anything else. You can literally schedule your posts on the platform. So if that is something you want to do, then do it. But again, a lot of people don't. I don't schedule my posts in advance, just because I like to post it on the day, then engage with anyone who comments, because sometimes if you do schedule in advance, the worry is that you don't then engage with comments, and then algorithms and things will work against you anyway. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what works best for you. And I think, let's say if you were to go on holiday, it's quite nice to have content going out but scheduled, but there's no right or wrong way of doing any of these things. It's just about what works for you. And if you're watching what works for you, don't think everyone's got it all figured out, because I certainly don't. And speaking to you, so you're just going with it and it works. So there's no right or wrong. So my final question for you will be just, I suppose, a bit of a random one, but what would be your main piece of advice for someone for next year to kind of get the most out of their year, to be the best selves? What would be your advice? Clearly you've had a great year yourself.
Oh, I mean, whatever advice I give, I need to take it myself as well. But I think it's so something that I've planned for the beginning of the year, because obviously there's New Year's sort of resolutions, but I feel like everyone is a bit love-hate about that, because they can be quite difficult to keep, and then you're sort of annoyed at yourself. But I am going to sit down and I'm going to set goals for my personal life, on social media, for my career, for my future, for like whatever it is. I'm going to pick each topic and I'm going to set some really strong goals for the year, and hopefully follow those through. But I've never really done it to such an extent. I sometimes will write goals, but I haven't done it like that. And I feel like there's a lot of I think it's a great thing to do, because you can set them out for the year, and then, you know, you can look back at it at the end of next year. But I just think, you know, try and find your passion again. And if you're losing kind of any interest or faith or whatever you're doing, whether it be kind of your job or anything like that, then just remind yourself that there's so much opportunity out there. And if you are in a bit of a rut for next year, you know, sit yourself down and be like, what do I want to achieve, and what do I want my life to look like? Because you're guiding this shit. No one else is. So whatever you want to do, you know, you can do, but just take a bit of time out, but, you know, plan it out and think about where you want to be and take some steps to do that. And, you know, if it's things like joining up to a mentor program, or if it's like, right, I'm going to do my first post on LinkedIn or something like that, can be anything.
That's really amazing advice. And also I loved how you said you're going to write your goals, not just for your career, but also personally, because that's so important. Like actually being happy personally, whether that's like relationships, friends, whatever you want to achieve with holidays or whatever you want to do, things that you want to achieve personally is so important. If not like what your career and business, what are you actually doing that for? Like surely you want to have some happiness with work, but equally outside of it. And I love how you said you're guiding it, like it's your choice what you want to do with your life. It's nobody else's, and you can make it happen. So that's really amazing advice. And thank you so much for joining us. We've covered so much, and you've helped me with kind of giving me some insight into what you've been up to, and also the ADHD stuff and sales and navigating your career. And I'm sure you've helped lots of the people who are listening. So thank you so much. And how should people get in contact with you if they want to like speak with you further or learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is the best place. You know, feel free to connect with me, whatever industry. You don't need to be in tech. You know, I love connecting with any type of people on there. And if you want to send me a message, please do so. I'm you know, open and willing to give any advice or take any advice. If anyone's got anything that they want to, you know, talk to me about, then yeah, please do. But LinkedIn probably is the best place to get me.
Perfect. And I will have Sophie tagged in here, so you will be able to see the link for Sophie's LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day, everyone. And thank you for watching. Thank you. Bye-bye.